Kid-friendly aliens next on Retro Serial. Hey everyone, welcome to Retro Serial. I'm your host Ian C. On today's program, we're going to be talking about friendly aliens as opposed to unfriendly aliens. Me and Thrash Pondo Pawns talk about movies and television shows from the 70s, 80s, and 90s regarding aliens that are friendly, particularly aliens that are friendly towards kids. But I don't need to go through that whole introduction with you because I already talked about that a little bit in the show. We're just going to get right to today's program. But before we get there, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe and share on your favorite social media. And if you're listening to this on podcast, please, by all means, give me a rating and a review. That would mean the world to us here at the show. And if you want to donate, you're always welcome to donate. You can hit the link below to the Patreon page. And on the Patreon page, you can find two levels of support. There's the Cornflake Club, which is just $5 a month. It is just a, hey, we like what you're doing. Here's a tip. Keep it up. We want more Retro Serial. But if you really want to be on the Insiders Club, you have to join the Honeycomb Hideout, which is $5 a month. But with that, you get all videos and all podcasts one day in advance, or most all of them one day in advance. And if you want to give a one-time donation, we have that now available for you at our Venmo page at Singularity_Productions for those one-time donations. Anything helps, but really the biggest deal is just like, comment, subscribe, share. That means the world to us. Write a review, share, rate, all those things. So with all that said, let's go ahead and get to the program. Okay, well, I don't need to reintroduce this because I already introduced this in the introduction, but we are going to be talking about friendly alien, kid-friendly alien TV shows and movies of the 70s, 80s, 90s. This show's all about growing up Gen X, so we mostly focus on 70s, 80s, and 90s. We reach a little bit into the future and a little bit behind, just as conversation allows. But this was one of my favorite genres when I was growing up. I loved watching alien shows. I loved watching sci-fi, but I particularly loved watching alien shows. And there was a time where like all alien shows were like mean, like they were unfriendly. And then there was this big gap of time where they were all friendly. And then I think they kind of broke the streak with Independence Day. I don't know. I don't know if there was anything in between, but it seemed like ones that were from the 50s and 60s and maybe even into the 70s, when an alien landed, it was bad news. It was bad. And then you broke that with Close Encounters. And then you had this whole rash of friendly aliens, television shows, everything. And then suddenly we had like Independence Day, which kind of brought back the evil alien idea. What do you think, Thrash? Thrash Pondo's with us today. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing awesome. And this is actually one of my favorite topics too. And the funny thing is when I was doing my research for this, how many of them I'm like, oh yeah, of course, I never thought of that. And I think you're right. There were some historic precedents that sort of changed the course of science fiction. I mean, you got to go back to, of course, War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells.
Yeah.
And the George Pal film in the 50s. That really solidified alien visitors as foe versus friend.
Right.
And we certainly saw that right into the 70s. And of course, you couldn't have been more right about Close Encounters. But what other big late 70s film came out that showed all these interesting, fun aliens that we'd all love to hang out with?
Galactica?
Aliens, and I'll give you another hint, and robots. And
Is it Star Trek? No.
Oh, yeah. You were
I'm
messing with me.
just
Yes,
kidding with you.
of course, of
Yeah.
course.
Did you see
So
Galactica, by the way? Did you ever
I
see?
did see Galactica. I
Isn't
did
that
see
wasn't that a
Galactica.
hilarious show? That was hilarious.
Yes, it sure was. But yeah, and so that kind of changed the mold to making them friendly. There was one precedent which brought us before Independence Day, which kind of let us know the aliens may not always be our friends, and that of course was V, the mini series.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Totally forgot about V. Yeah, in the middle of this, we did have that
A split,
episode.
a
Yeah,
rift,
a rift.
and
But the trend was certainly mostly friendly aliens during
oh
the.
yes, indeed you did.
Yeah.
But V was very interesting in that, much like Star Wars, you could be either or. There were
Yeah.
plenty of valid cases of bad alien, but there could be some good ones too. Sometimes fighting each other, and you could. There was an old movie, I want to say it was Christopher Lee. I want to say it was called Alien Invasion or something like that. It was not particularly high budget film, but what happened? Two warring aliens came to Earth, and
Oh
the
wow.
Earthlings weren't even like on their radar. They were fighting each other. The only
Mhm.
problem is one was fighting in such a way that Earth would have been destroyed, and one's honor code said, "Well, I have to fight him, but I don't want to kill you guys while I'm at it." So even in that case, there was a hierarchy of bad and less bad.
Yeah.
Um,
There's
but
a few low budget alien shows that kind of. There was one with oh, I forgot his name. Dolph Lundgren. I come in peace
mhm.
and I leave in pieces or whatever.
Is
Yeah.
that was
Yeah,
the cliche.
yeah, I come in peace, but I can't remember. I used to watch that movie, um, and and that was an unfriendly alien. But for the most part, in the 80s, they were friendly aliens.
Friendly.
Now, and kid friendly, and not just
Mm,
friendly, but kid
friendly.
friendly
Kid friendly.
alien shows. So what are the shows and the movies that you? I mean, obviously, we talk about the big one, the biggest one.
Please.
I think the biggest one
Please.
is E.T. I mean, E.T. is unless you got a bigger one. Were you thinking of another one? Okay, what was one
I
you're thinking? Close
I
Encounters?
have to go. I have to go back. The alpha patient of the kid-friendly alien, Kal-El from the planet Krypton, otherwise known as
Superman.
Superman.
Right,
Superman. He was literally the first time an alien had come to Earth and basically became everybody's best friend. In fact, and this template has been reused later, and please forgive me if I'm a little close to the wind. I don't want to say anything sacrilegiousy, but his story kind of paralleled the New Testament.
Yes, for sure, yeah.
And I'm sure that wasn't an accident. But he came here basically as a protector, as a savior almost.
Yeah.
And of course, you had the comics, you had the Fleischer cartoons, you had the TV series, film shorts. The irony was there wasn't a full-length feature film featuring Superman until the 1970s,
right.
Parallel with Close Encounters, oddly enough.
Mm.
But he sort of kicked off the idea of a good guy alien, and it fits the mold, kid friendly. The next one I picked up on, I just have to read this into the record, not exactly for kids, but I just love the fact that he fit the template on so many other levels, was of course Klaatu from, of course, The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Oh yeah. That's
and here again, yeah.
That's an old one though. That's much
from
the
older. 50s.
Yeah, from the 50s.
Well, Superman was from the 30s.
Well, I
People
know,
forget
but the
that, yeah.
big film came. We have a
Yes.
film
A film, yes.
of Superman and TV. Well, you got the Superboy and all that stuff, and the cartoons and stuff. Yeah, but you're right. I mean, if we're talking technically kid-friendly aliens, then I mean, Superman fits that mold. And of course, I love Superman. Slipped through my mind because I'm, I mean, obviously, I'm thinking Superman more of a superhero show rather than a kid-friendly alien show. But I mean, you nailed it. I mean, yeah. I mean, if we're just talking strictly by the meaning of words, they're kids, they're friendly. He was friendly and he was an alien. Yeah, for sure. And by the way, I love the movies. I mean, I absolutely love the movies. And I love the second one. And I don't know if I really liked the third one or fourth one. Probably stopped watching it by then, but I did watch the first two and I thought they were great. Did you watch the third one or the fourth one?
I watched the third one. Wasn't crazy. They decided to go back to the Lana Lang. I guess there was some casting problems at the time, and it just seemed the best way to go. Robert Vaughn made a competent villain, but Richard Pryor was completely and totally wasted. Richard Pryor was like right in the crest of his career at that point.
Yeah.
And I think they just thought he might make a nice addition, and he could have.
Yeah.
He was just given very little to do.
Mm.
And it showed. I think, honest to God, I think if they let him freeform some stuff as opposed to doing scripted material, I think he may have pulled it off.
Maybe.
But I wouldn't say it was a bad film. It's just probably my least favorite of the three.
Mm-hmm.
And I must confess, I never saw the fourth one.
Yeah, the fourth one was a travesty by everybody's opinion. It was a complete travesty. But the first one was iconic. Did you like the second one or no?
Oh, I like the second one a lot, actually.
Yeah, I thought the second one, for me as a kid, I thought the second one was better.
Oh,
probably as an adult, I liked the first one better, but as a kid, I liked the second one better because there was more bad guys. You know, the challenge was worse. I mean, you know, more intimidating because he had to face people who were like him, but there was more of them. The first one was more, you know, natural disaster, and then, you know, hanging the kryptonite around his neck and, you know, and letting him drown slowly while everybody walked away to let him drown. But that second one, that was a doozy.
Yeah. How about that?
Yeah. So, all right. Well, the big kid movie that I have to, the kid friendly alien movie, there's a few of them. I want to get to them, but the one that I mean, that was a huge impact on society, and I think culture, and the one I think everybody kind of remembers as an alien movie. I think people remember Superman as more of a superhero movie than an alien movie, but yes, you're technically right. But is E.T. I mean, E.T. the extraterrestrial, the one before the Close Encounters. I mean, obviously they're friendly. The people go on the ship at the end, but you don't really interact with the aliens. And E.T. is all about the interaction between the alien and Elliot. And I remember when it came out, I think I was 9 years old when it came out. It came out in 82 or 83, something like that. And
early 80s.
Yeah. And I'm kind of wondering, were you that into it? Because you're 5 years older than I am. So, I mean, you might have been a teenager and kind of thought that was silly.
I was actually just inside the cusp. Shall we say family-friendly sci-fi after that? I kind of called it a miss, as the English would say. But E.T. was sort of the last of the I could enjoy on a sci-fi level and on a family film level. I think I was 14 years old. It was a fantastic film. It was beautifully made. It was wonderfully shot. I thought it was very imaginative. So yes, even though I was probably just outside the scope of the age bracket of the film, I did love it. In fact, I got to tell you, I couldn't agree with you more. There, in science fiction circles, there is before E.T. and after E.T. I mean, the movie invented its own candy. I'm sure you already know this.
Yeah, right.
You don't. Originally, they wanted to use Mars bars candy. They wanted to use M&Ms as the candy which lured E.T. Out into the open. And M&Ms passed on it. They said no thanks. So they went to Reese's, and Reese's said, "Yeah, we'll invent a little peanut butter candy."
The Reese's Pieces.
Reese's Pieces.
Yeah, too bad for M&Ms, man. I mean,
right?
that was a bad news for them.
And Reese's Pieces are still competition to M&M some 40 years later. It's a wonderful movie that can be appreciated by young and old alike.
Yeah, it was the first movie that I cried at when I was a kid.
Oh,
Like I
really?
didn't, yeah, like at the end, and I had
Really?
no idea what was going on. I mean, I'm 9, I'm a boy, and I'm crying at ET, and I have no idea. Like I didn't know up to that point, up to I think, like 9 years old, crying was associated mostly with just pain, like
Hmm.
physical pain, like either from a spanking or you fall down, scrape your knee and you cry. I didn't really ever associate crying with an emotion, like emotionally crying over something. I had no idea. I didn't, at least I don't remember experiencing it. And I remember at the end of this show, just starting to weep and not knowing like why am I crying at this. It was a totally new emotion for me. And what was interesting is the first time I saw ET, Annie was out at the same time, and I was a big fan of Annie. By the way, I loved Annie. I was a big fan of Annie, and I went with a family, with the family friends, because my mom, like I've said before, she was a single mom. She was working a lot, and I had all these little second families and stuff like that. And the father and me, because I was the he had a his family had mostly girls. He had a young boy, but the boy was just a baby at the time. So I was like an older son kind of to him. So the family, the mom and the two girls went to see Annie, and I went to see ET, and with him. And I didn't know. I mean, I actually didn't know. I thought we were all going to go see Annie. I think maybe it was the last minute he wanted to see ET or something like that. And I'm walking out just bawling, just crying my eyes out. And the girl, that was kind of my age, she wondered what was wrong. She thought maybe I got hit or something like that. I don't know
No.
exactly. But I mean, I'm coming out, I'm visibly shaken by this show. And they're like, well, what happened in there? They're just giving you this bewilderment look, like, oh my gosh, what in the world went wrong? And I'm like, nothing went wrong. It all went terribly right. It was so sweetly right that it just made me bawl. So yeah, that was one of my favorites. Now, ET also had its own line of toys,
It
and
did.
I don't know, and I never got it. I never got any of those ET toys. I was really upset about that. My mom was the save up and get it, and I was the I can't save.
We will save.
I can't. As soon as I get my allowance, it's gone, man. It's
Oh.
gone on candy and soda and video games, and that's it. So I could never save up to get it. But what's funny, and I don't mean to be too blue here, but there was an ET toy that looked very phallic. I don't know if you remember this. You could look it
No,
up
I
online.
don't.
So
I believe it, but I don't remember.
it was his finger, that
Uh-huh.
glowed,
Uh-huh.
and you could put it on, but it looked like something else entirely. There's actually YouTube videos on it too, on like I don't know, toys that didn't didn't make it or whatever, that were real bad or whatever, unintentionally naughty toys or something like that. But that's on there, and you can see it. And you're like, yeah, I could, yeah, I'm glad I didn't get that and walk around with an ET finger. It would have been bad. But anyway, I digress on ET. I've got a couple others, but I give you a chance to talk as well. So what do you want to say about ET, or if you want to move the conversation forward? That's all I have to say about ET. Other than, I'm sorry, I have to interrupt one more time. There was going to be a sequel. Did you know that?
I knew there were. I didn't know much about it. I knew they had planned a sequel and it never materialized.
Yeah, it never materialized. You can actually read the summary of it out on the internet. It's free on the internet. But it was going to be evil ETs, basically like a cousin race, like a Vulcan and
Romulan
a Romulan kind of a thing. And then they come and threaten the Elliot household, and ET has to come back to rescue them. So
it's Gremlins, effectively.
Basically, yes, like Gremlins. Yes, might even be where
No
Gremlins came from.
It might be. It might be. Yeah.
Anyway,
well, I did not know that. I mean, I knew there was, but I didn't know that was going to be that. But
yeah.
But just well, no, I just when I was doing my research, I was actually surprised just how many movies about alien interaction on a positive, and again, I hate to beat the term to death, child friendly a scenario there were, to the point where I had to start limiting my selections to just ones that actually take place on Earth. There are a number that actually take place purely like off in space, and it's like an alien interaction altogether. So I only resign myself to ones where the humans are on Earth interacting with these aliens. And one of the things I found was there were a number that actually came from foreign countries. There was a whole slew of Japanese heroes who were basically, there was one called Space Chief, and I'm going to use the American names as opposed to the Japanese because I'll butcher them. There was something called Prince of Space. Another one I think called Starman. I might be mixing a couple of them up. But basically, it was a humanoid superhero type who basically, sort of like Doctor Who, where he assigns himself to be Earth's protector. And basically comes to Earth to fight off bad, ugly, mean aliens that aren't kid friendly. And he basically befriends the children and makes them go away. And while we're on this subject, Doctor Who, and I know you didn't watch Doctor Who when you were a kid. I watched it faithfully, but Doctor Who, while some of them, again, sailed a little close to the wind and were maybe a little scared, Tom Baker actually addresses that. Some English school children get their first scare watching Doctor Who because some of it was a little intense for BBC viewers. But the Doctor himself was a protector of Earth, and he himself was very approachable and kid-friendly.
Was he an alien? Was Doctor Who an alien?
Yes.
I didn't know
was
that.
from... Well, in the American movies, I bite my tongue, English movies, which are basically not considered canon, Peter Cushing plays sort of like a mad scientist who invents a time machine and hilarity ensues. But in the actual BBC story, TV series created by Terry Nation, Doctor Who is from a planet called Gallifrey, and its entire planet of time travelers who basically go around just collecting the knowledge of the universe. And for one reason or the other, our hero, the Doctor, signs on as being Earth's personal bodyguard and does a very nice job. And it's probably gone off the rails since then. I haven't watched Doctor Who in years. I've heard the series has changed quite a bit in the last 20 years. But I'm going back to when I was a kid, 70s, 80s, and 90s, those Doctors. And again, fits the bill very, very nice. There's also, and I'm just going to read this into the record, even though it's dreadful. There was a Canadian movie called Pod People that was actually lampooned by MST3K.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's about a little boy who finds an alien egg and he raises the egg to adulthood, and it's basically it's basically Alf on steroids.
Okay.
And that was a Canadian sci-fi movie with a child-friendly alien. So yeah, there were a lot actually from foreign countries, and I didn't realize that till I was actually like really looking into it.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Of course,
they weren't ones that I had watched as a kid, at least that I don't know of. At least that I know of. Were there some that were popular in the States?
If you watched Creature Double Feature, which is what we called it in my area, most regions had like one of those Saturday afternoon low budget sci-fi horror showcases where a host would come out. Son of Svengoolie did it for years. I guess he was based in Chicago, but he did an affiliate in Boston, I guess other places too. And that's how I saw the Japanese ones, because those aired quite regularly. Pod People I only saw on MST3K, which of course was released under Sci-Fi Channel at that point.
Well, I probably had seen those as the Pod People as well. That sounds familiar now that you're telling me, and especially since you've seen it on MST3K. Now, was it MST3K with Mike or with Joe?
Give me a second. I want to say Mike.
You want to say it was with Mike? Okay.
I want to say it was Mike. I actually own a copy, but I haven't seen it in years. But I want to say Mike.
Now let's move into, well I have way more to say about movies as well, but I want to move into at least one that I wanted to talk about that was not quite as popular, but I did watch it from time to time, and it was a television series. It was a I guess you could say kid friendly alien, and it was called Out of This World. Did you ever watch that?
I remember Out of This World. Yes,
Yeah, yeah. Where
Donna
it,
Pescow from Saturday Night Fever was in it.
oh, oh, okay.
She played the mom.
Okay, all right, yeah. It was basically a teenage girl who was half alien,
Hmm.
and she gets a unique. She has these superpowers. I don't know if you remember that or not.
I
And she
do.
gets these messages from space. Now, I wasn't a huge fan. It came out in like 1983, but I did watch it. Um, but I did watch it from time to time. Maybe it was a little later. I'm trying to read it here. It said NBC enabled the experiment after 1987, 88, due to ratings. So yeah, from 83 to 87. But I remember watching that from time to time. That was pretty cool. And then of course you have Alf. I mean, Alf is
Alf,
probably the
the
most.
biggest TV.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Any television ones you remember?
Well, I loved Alf. Alf was
Uh-huh.
one of my favorite shows. I was actually really bummed out that it was canceled. I was heartbroken that they never actually resolved that last episode.
Yeah, that was
That really
horrible.
bothered me.
That was
That really
horrible.
bothered me.
And
And
nobody
of
came back for the movie. They
none of
could
them.
have done it
Yeah.
they could have done it with the movie, and none of them came back with the movie. Yeah, for the
Yeah, and
movie.
but that really bothered me. And if you're going to end a show season on a cliffhanger, don't cancel the show. That's just hard put. And as far as Small Wonder, was it that the one you were talking about? A
No,
little trivia, not Small Wonder. No, she was a robot, not an alien. Out of This World.
Out of This World, right?
Um, Burt Reynolds does the voice of her father. He's never shown on
Oh,
screen, but how at the end
really?
of every episode she talks to
Yes.
the cube and it's her father. It's
Yeah.
Burt Reynolds.
Wow.
Um,
Very
and
interesting.
I did see a few episodes. Who was it? She had, oh, I forget his name, but her uncle was played by somebody who was actually a fairly big actor. So I do remember seeing a few episodes. But as far as TV goes, you have to go with Alf.
Yeah.
And if you're a friend of Chris Elliott, you probably saw Get a Life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you ever see the Get a Life episode, which lampooned Alf and ET, where
No,
he finds an alien, but it's an obnoxious, mean, nasty alien. But
I
everything
gotta,
the alien does,
I gotta go back and watch Get a Life, man.
yeah.
Yeah. So what happened? Sorry, I cut you off
Oh,
there.
that's quite all right. He interprets everything the alien does as the alien being very, very sentient and very, very, very caring and considerate, and he's really, really just nasty and obnoxious. And it's very funny. That was the great thing about Get a Life, is it was always the antithesis of every TV cliche that Hollywood was famous for throwing at us. There's another show, not to get too far off topic, but there's another show by Tim and Eric called Beef House, which is the same thing, where they take old Hollywood cliches and put them into ridiculous modern context. It's
Hmm.
actually cute, but I think Chris Elliott did it first and did it a little better. But I think as far as alien TV, and the weird thing about alien TV shows, sadly, they tend not to do very well. They tend not to last very long.
Yeah, Alf
Usually,
was
you get
probably the
two
most successful one.
and they tried with Starman, but I think that only ran a half a season.
Yeah, Starman. Well, I actually
Uh,
really liked that was one I was gonna go to next with Starman, the TV series. Yeah, it really lasted. It says from September 19th, 1986 to May 2nd, 1987. So yeah, not that long at all. But I mean, I was kind of a fan of Starman anyway because it came on HBO so much. It was one of those ones that just kind of played and over and over and over again. And then when he comes back to look for the girl, that's kind of the idea of the show. So if people don't know the show, the TV series, basically that same alien guy comes back to find the girl from the movie, but she's missing, and he finds his son, and they go on these weekly kind of adventure kind of things. But he looks different because he takes on a different DNA. He's the same person, but he looks different. And then so like that even comes up in the show, it's they say, well, will she know you? And like, well, yeah, but I look different. So but one of the things was is in Starman, they had that little ball that did the miracle or whatever it was that they needed to
Well,
do.
he had X number of them,
He had
and
six
that's
of
why he
them.
had to use them He had to use them
He
sparingly.
had to lose them sparingly, but in the TV series, and maybe it was just a result of the technology advancement. They don't really explain it, but he just has one, and it can do anything. It's a little too, God out of the machine kind of a thing. Deus ex machina, I think that's the term that's used when things are solved too easily. But I liked it. I enjoyed the show. I actually remember watching it, and yes, and it was canceled maybe a little too soon. But that was another TV alien show, and that's kind of a movie crossover. It was kind of, I don't know if it's kid friendly, but at least it was friendly, and it was teenage friendly because his son was like a young teenager or something like that at the time. So anyway, what other movies we've got or shows that we've got that you want to talk about?
Well, V, of course, was another short-lived. And I don't know. I love the miniseries. The TV show was terrible. Did you watch the TV show at all?
What do you mean? Was there a
Uh,
TV show from the
V
miniseries?
after the miniseries, there was a very short-lived V the TV series, which was dreadful.
I didn't know
But
there was a difference. I didn't know there was a
um,
difference.
well, there was the miniseries and then a weekly series, but the weekly
Oh,
series didn't last very long, and it had a much lower budget. And but again, it tried to have good versus bad aliens, but it was just terrible. Possibly and I don't know if you could really say it's kid friendly because there were some adult themes to it, but possibly the best. Well, it was literally a family. The best sci-fi alien family TV series I can think of would be Alien Nation,
oh yeah, yeah. I
based on
remember
based
Alien
on
Nation.
the feature film
That
with
was kind
James
of a
Caan. Rest in peace.
family thing oriented.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly. Part police procedural, part family drama, part newcomer situation because they were supposed to be the new minority. They were
yeah,
the aliens, and they're trying to. And there was a lot of, and I won't even say subtle. They kind of beat you over the head with it, but just the themes of immigrants and what they cope with in this country, trying to
right,
assimilate.
right.
You saw that in the movie, but you saw it a lot of the TV series, and that lasted. That probably lasted the longest. That might have lasted as many as 3 seasons, but at least a
Well,
solid
it got
two.
ridiculous at the end. I know that. I
They
know that
always do.
at the end, I was just like, I was out. Even though I watched it, still I hated it. Where the guy got pregnant, and
Say
uh, yeah, and they made a big deal about how they get pregnant is
yes,
this
they did.
ritualistic thing, and it was the girl who got pregnant who had to get impregnated, and then without any explanation at all, the guy's pregnant. It was just ridiculous. I mean, obviously, I think one, if we want to go kid friendly with that gets ridiculous, we have to talk about Mork and Mindy.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I didn't even
Mork.
think of that one. Yeah, okay.
I mean, it's not necessarily kids, but I mean, I loved it as a kid. I mean, I
Me
loved it as
too.
a kid. So I think it was very kid friendly, even though there wasn't a lot of children involved in the movie, except for his higher up was a kid that
Yes,
came to Earth. But at the end there, it got ridiculous too with Jonathan Winters.
Winters.
I
Yes.
I just thought that was absolutely terrible with the when Jonathan Winters started to be involved with it. And I dropped out of watching it when I was a kid with Jonathan Winters. Probably as a kid, I probably wouldn't have minded it so much because silly for a kid, silly is good writing. you know Silly
Hmm.
is just good writing, especially if you're like a child, which I was. And I probably would have, and I actually probably did enjoy it from the few episodes I remember seeing. But as an adult, though, you go back and you watch the ones with Jonathan Winters in it, and it is just stupid. I mean, it is so bad. And nothing wrong with Jonathan Winters. He was a great comedic character actor. But I mean, that was just so, oh, we age in reverse where I'm from. Like, why do they got to do this? I mean, do they think that this is helping? I don't understand. I really don't. This is like a bad idea? Do you think this bad idea is going to help your TV show last or something?
Honest to God, I think what had happened was something like this. You have possibly, and Robin Williams was a young comic at this time, but that very sort of animated, high energy, off the wall, spontaneous, impromptu stuff. And you take one of the founders of that style of comedy, Jonathan Winters. Hey, if we put the two of them together, they'll play with each other. You'll have lightning in a bottle. They tried something similar early on. They brought in Tom Poston as the kleptomaniac neighbor. And he was actually doing fairly well, but they just sort of dropped him like a chunk of strontium-90. Not entirely sure. I guess they figured it was a dead end. But I really think they thought if they put these two icons of comedy together, it would be a masterpiece. And unfortunately, and I've seen this a few other times in other works, sometimes comedic geniuses don't complement each other.
No, they don't get along.
Well, they just crush each other out. And actually, from what I understand, I guess Winters and Williams love working with each other. They just did not complement each other.
No, and that's what I meant. I didn't mean necessarily like they fight or whatever, but I meant like, it doesn't work. It just they don't mix well together. You think,
and it didn't work. And it was a ridiculous subplot, absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, that was the biggest deal. Was that subplot? Was we age backwards? Like, let's get ridiculous. Let's make the men get pregnant.
And that's another thing. If you had done it for one episode, you could kind of laugh it off. That's great. It became the recurring joke for an entire season. And if there's one thing Mork and Mindy did not need, it was a running gag.
Yeah,
And I think they painted themselves into a corner. And I don't know if they've even resolved it. I think they just canceled the show. But
who was that guy in Mork and Mindy he was the crazy guy, the crazy guy who Mork picked up?
Played not Orson, but he was a religious fanatic. He was supposed he was supposed to be like the Heaven's Gate type person.
Yeah, exactly. I see a little bit of Cosmo Kramer in him.
Definitely.
I see a little bit of anyway, I do, at least the way he looks and the way he acts and stuff.
They're very over the top. They were great together.
Yeah,
they were great together. And I love the premise. One is a crazy guy thinking the aliens are actually part of a religious group going to bring us to another world, and another one who's actually an alien, and sort of having to reconcile that.
Right.
And of course, it gets a little dark at one point because there's one episode where he meets up with the I can't think of this guy's name to save my life, but he meets up with him again, and he's no longer worshiping aliens. He's worshiping, and he tears open his jacket, O.J. Simpson.
Oh,
and he has O.J. Simpson's number on.
Wow.
And I got to tell you, nowadays that's a little. But at the time when I was like 11, 12 years old, I thought it was the funniest thing I had ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't know what was going to happen.
Well, no, how could anyone have seen that coming?
Right.
It's like, he was a hero. He was.
He was a hero for sure.
He really was, definitely.
If we go back to movies, the other one that had a really big impact on me, E.T. obviously did. The truth is even though Close Encounters came out before and kind of paved the way for that kind of thing, it didn't have an impact on me as much as other people did. And even now I go back and I hate to sound sacrilegious for, because everybody kind of touts Steven Spielberg for that. It's still, even now when I watch it, it doesn't interest me as much. And I don't know. It just doesn't capture me, for some reason. But as a kid, one of them that did capture me, that probably is a piece of garbage, was Explorers. Did you see Explorers?
I didn't. In fact, there's a great story. I remember a couple of my friends actually were able to hang on to the childlike whimsy a little longer than I did. I was already by that time. By the time Explorers came out, I was in my "oh, this is so lame" stage,
Yeah.
and they went and saw Explorers. They loved it, and they begged me to see it with them, and I'm like, pass.
You're like, pass. I'm way too
I'm like,
cool to see
pass.
that.
Yeah, I'm too cool. I see I don't know. I see like avant-garde films now, like After Hours and stuff like that. You guys
Right.
can have your little kiddie movies, and that's great.
Right.
I didn't go through my movie snob phase like all like movie buffs do.
Well,
So yes, I did not.
it
Yeah.
had Ethan Hawke in it, and it had River Phoenix in it, and it had another guy in it too, but he wasn't popular after those movies. Um, but it was basically, kind of they get the documents to build the ship from the aliens. And I don't know if you've not ever seen it at all or have ever heard about it, but basically, Ethan Hawke's kind of the cool kid, and then the other kid that they didn't know was kind of the bad kid, and River Phoenix was the scientist kid, was the nerdy kid, and they're trying to build this ship and stuff like that. But they start receiving messages on how to build this, this ship, and they build it, and it's from aliens, and then they finally make it work, and then they fly up to see the aliens, and it was actually pretty. I think, and I haven't seen it since I was an adult. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I think probably it would have been a great movie up until you get to the aliens, because once you get to the aliens, it gets a little ridiculous, and they look a little comic-y. And it turns out that the aliens that are sending these messages are themselves children, yeah, on their own planet and on the ship. And so their parents come back, find out that they did this, get really upset, and then send them back home. So, but up until that point, it was pretty cool. I mean, it was even as a kid, though, I thought it was cool to see the aliens. I've seen those aliens now, like in clips and stuff like that, and it is a little cringy. You know what I mean? A little, but it's one of those, where you get broken homes, boy children, getting it over on the adults, different kind of friends, that you have as a kid. And I remember having those kind of friends. I remember I had a friend that was more bad than I was, and I had a friend who was the geek friend who was very good at school. So I could really identify with the lead character. And I think everybody to some extent has, you always picture yourself kind of in the middle, whether you're really in the middle or not. You picture yourself in the middle. You picture there are people who are better at school and nicer or better educated, and then you have people over here, well, they're I'm only smoking pot, but they're shooting heroin, so I'm not as bad as they are, or whatever. Or I'm smoking cigarettes, but they're smoking pot, or you know what I mean?
Or yeah, whatever they're doing is worse. I might be a little bad, but they're big bad.
Yeah. We all kind of view ourselves as in the middle. So, but I definitely could identify. I had a friend who was a real geek, a real nerd kind of a friend. And he wouldn't mind me saying that, because he certainly was. And and he was one of my best friends as I was growing up. And then I had another friend just who was worse off than I was. I mean, it was, they were smoking pot at their house. They, that kind of thing. And of course, I mean, this was happening when I was like 10 or 11, somewhere around there. Yeah.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Did he have an older brother or sister that got him into it? That's usually how that works.
No, he was the older brother, but the mom was single like my mom, except for my mom was a nurse. So she had put herself through school to become a nurse. And sorry, my watch went off there. So they were a little like, I don't know, like a little bit more. And I don't mean this at all in any judgmental aspect whatsoever, but they were a tad bit more ghetto if that makes
Mm,
sense, than our
it does. It does.
family was. And so they didn't mind doing things. That's actually the guy that he's the guy that I talked about that went that got his head ran over and became blind. I think, yeah,
Yes. Yes, you told me. Oh, that's that guy.
Yeah, that guy's family. But I knew him before he went blind. You know, I knew him and I was friends with him I was friends with him for years and years. We lost touch later and found out he actually died in like 2009 or something like that of an OD. So he OD'd. So anyway, but yeah, I mean, so I could really identify with that show. And of course, liking aliens and liking sci-fi, it was a really good show.
Well, I can see why it would have been good, shall we say, right up until the point where they meet the aliens, because, and I'm sure I've read this somewhere, but it just popped in my head. The story is essentially a short story written by Ray Bradbury, where what's happening is all the kids in this neighborhood are gathering up stuff to build a secret scientific secret thing. And the mother's watching them and thinks it's a game. And one kid says, here, they're taking appliances out of other houses and saying, here, we'll need this for the sonic incubator. And here we need this for the what's doodle hanger. And she just thinks it's a little game. And all of a sudden she gets a phone call from her sister on the other side of the country. And she hears her kids say the exact same word, the doodle hanger or something. And she's like, what did your son just say? Oh, no, don't worry. He and the other kids in the neighborhood are playing a game. They're building some secret spaceship thing. And you find out what's happening is the aliens are getting ready to invade Earth. And the way they do it is they have matter transport. They just have to have sites on site for them to materialize in. And they trick the children of Earth into building these receptors so they can invade. And by the time these two housewives figure it out, it's too late. The aliens show up. So it sounds like someone took this very grim short story, and decided to make it a family movie. But of course, once you do that, when you take a grim story and try to make it fanciful, oftentimes it goes off the rails. And as you say, I can see why. Well, now what do we do? Well, they'll meet children aliens. Well, we'll try it. So but yeah, like I said, I missed Explorers, so I never get to see it firsthand.
Yeah, well, there's a couple I missed. Flight of the Navigator was a big one, and I've never seen that one. Did you see that Flight of the Navigator?
I kind of half watched it. It was I was hanging out at somebody's house and it was on, and I wasn't a kid at the time. I think his kids were watching it. And I was like in my late 30s, early 40s, and it was like, oh yeah, I kind of remember this. Yeah, and I'm half watching it, but I didn't see it in the theaters. No.
I didn't see it in the theaters. I've never watched it. There was a few of them that came out.
Sarah Jessica Parker was in that, wasn't she? Or am I thinking of somebody else?
I don't know. Maybe.
I think Sarah Jessica Parker was in it.
I mean, I really have not even, other than looking at the front photo that, appears on the poster. I don't know anything about it. I have no idea what it's about or anything. Another one that I missed was Batteries Not Included. Did you see that?
No. I never saw that one. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. When I heard about that one, I was in college, and like I said, I was still going through that movie snob thing. So I remember someone I know watched it and liked it, and I was like, oh. But no, I never actually saw it. Yeah.
Well, what are some other kid-friendly alien movies that you got, or television series, whichever ones?
Well, I don't know if this one counts, but I'm going to use it anyway. Ever see UHF with Weird Al?
Well, yeah, of course.
Remember at the end, the whole thing is resolved by the sort of weird back room guy, and it turns out that he's an alien. So in that case, I mean, granted, it's sort of a very minor, almost tacked on case, but in UHF, the day is saved by this friendly alien who befriends Weird Al. And I think that's a countsies. Not a great countsies, but a countsies.
But a countsies nonetheless.
But a countsies. A lot of the ones I have, actually, they're friendly aliens, but I wouldn't say kid friendly. Like, for example, one of my favorite is The Hidden with Kyle MacLachlan. And it's basically alien police procedural. a criminal alien comes to Earth and is basically just trying to live the high life. It likes to like live on the edge and destroy things and just basically cause mayhem. And Kyle MacLachlan plays a cop alien who's sent to Earth to try to bring this bad alien to justice.
Oh wow!
And it becomes part cop buddy flick, part alien in conflict flick. But it's not kid friendly at all. There's a lot of super violence in it and whatnot. You've never seen this one?
No, I have not. I've not heard of it.
It's a pretty solid movie, but I can't in good conscience call it family friendly.
What about Benji, Zax, and the Alien Prince? Did you ever see that one?
Actually, I'm not even familiar with that one. I must have been much older when that came out.
Yeah, I don't know. 83 is what I'm looking at here.
I'd have been in high school.
Yeah,
but I don't
I'll
recall
read the synopsis of it. It says, the alien prince had nothing to do with the guy who made Purple Rain, but you are forgiven for thinking that this show might have something to do with that prince, because stuff like that happened in the 1980s. No, the prince here was Yubi, the kid, and I'm looking at this picture here, but you're not gonna be able to see it. The kid in the picture who escaped an uprising on his home planet, Antares, with his android pal Zax. Zax was a bit like a mixture of Jinx from Space Camp and Orko from He-Man, for those who know their 80s references. Of course, Benji was the same old lovable dog. Well, not the same dog. The original Benji actor Higgins gives his name, Higgins, the Pooch series seen in anyway, was died in 83. So yeah, I guess this happened in 83. Yeah, look it up. Benji, Zax, and the Alien Prince.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that one. But like I say, it probably would have been shown like in a kids block or something. So I did like see the first Benji. I actually saw the first Benji in the drive-in.
Yeah.
That's the only one I remember seeing.
Well, remember Boomer too? Benji and Boomer?
No, I don't remember Benji.
Boomer was I think the rip-off television show. Weekly television show. But they couldn't call it Benji. So we had Boomer rather than Benji, but it was a weekly smart dog meeting new people, healing families, and outwitting the dog catcher kind of a thing.
I remember Joe, which was basically the fugitive with an Alsatian instead of a guy convicted of murder. And it basically was, again, the dog, his owner, he was trained by the military to be a super dog, and he escapes for some reason. And this government dog catcher is after him. And each week he gets adopted by a new owner, and he helps the new owner out, and then has to run away in the last minutes of the show.
What's the name of this show? What's the name of it?
It's called Joe.
Oh, Joe. Okay.
And anytime Joe does something really smart, it's done in a flashback, and you see his owner says, "Save the baby, Joe, 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 Joe," and it shows him being trained to do all these superhuman things. And when it first aired, I had a German Shepherd, so I thought they were the best dog in the world. So I basically thought it was a show for me and my dog, and things kind of went downhill from there. But I do remember the show. I want to say it was on the Croft Super Show, because again, that was a showcase for smaller shows, not long enough to have their own half-hour installment. And there you go. Well, not really an alien, but
right. Well, we can't talk about kid-friendly aliens without mentioning Mac and Me. Now, have you watched Mac and Me?
I knew it was going to. I have not watched Mac and Me, but I knew we'd get around to it.
Well,
eventually.
I mean,
I knew it was
this is when things become a parody of themselves. You know, like I've talked about this in music. I've talked about this in almost every genre. You can tell something's at the end of its course because you start getting parodies of themselves, and they're not really parodies. They're just trying to reinvent the wheel. You know what I mean? That's why hair metal died. That's why grunge died, quite honestly. It's you just start getting these parodies of themselves. You know, the next, and they're the sad part is they're not really parodies. They just are parodies. They're not trying to parrot. They just become parodies. You know, it's the whole, well, there's Motley Crue, then Poison, and then, you know, something worse than that, you know, kind of going downstream. And Mac and Me is one of those shows that's just trying to, it's a great, it's in the so bad it's good category. I seriously recommend watching it. It is hilarious. It is hilarious. It's you can't, you can't write it that way. Like Samurai Cop. You ever watch Samurai Cop?
The old Trauma film,
It's a film. It's a movie. Samurai
but
Cop.
it was released by was it released by Trauma?
I
Am I
don't know.
thinking of? Yeah, I saw it. Yeah, I remember.
Well, it's so bad that it's good, and they actually tried to make a samurai. They did make a Samurai Cop too, but you can't recreate it. You can't make so bad that it's good on purpose. It has to happen. It has to be organic. Every time somebody tries to make it so bad that it's good, it just ends up being kind of lame.
Bad.
Yeah.
Yes.
It just ends up being bad. Well, Mac and Me is one of those shows. It's so bad that it's good. It is a hoot. It is hilarious. It is so comically bad. But basically, the aliens get sucked into this machine that we sent somewhere to some planet. I can't remember where, Mars or somewhere. And they get sucked into this machine and brought back to Earth and spit up back on Earth. And they, and Mac, the little kid escapes. And all this show is a huge commercial for Coca-Cola and McDonald's. Literally, like every scene either is about McDonald's, happens at a McDonald's, and people are drinking Coke or asking for Coke. The whole movie is that way, and it's an ET ripoff for sure. But it is so hilarious. I mean, and Mac has special powers and helps this kid out. And one of the things is the kid's in a wheelchair, which is kind of cool. Because I mean that to have children with disabilities represented during that time in a positive light was good. And they don't really ever make a big deal out of it. It's not like, oh, you're in a wheelchair. It was just part of the family life. Oh yeah, he's in a wheelchair, which I assume that people who have disabilities, that's how it becomes. It just becomes part of the family life. So I have to give it kudos for that. I mean, it was a good step in that direction. And Jennifer Aniston was in the film. She's one of the extra dancers. They break into this huge dance at McDonald's and stuff. It's and people are after Mac and Me. And it's low budget, and it is everything that is right about so bad that it's good kind of film. And at the very end, they actually become U.S. citizens. They are sworn in as U.S. citizens, and that is just an awesome. It's so bad, and it says, "You will see us again," or "We'll be back," or something like that, and they drive away. Mac and the mother and father of the alien family, because they get reunited and they drive away, and it shows them driving in this convertible up onto a freeway. And we never got Mac and Me Part 2, which I'm sure everybody is real thankful for. But anyway,
I shouldn't be too critical. But yeah, no, I must confess, I missed Mac and Me too.
I think I saw Mac and Me later. I don't think I saw it when it came out. I think I saw that actually later. There was another, and I keep bringing this up and I always forget. It's a kid alien show. I think it happens off world, off planet. But basically, what happens is it's a sci-fi show. Um, this obviously alien sci-fi show, duh, right? I don't know if you would know it or not,
Try
but
me.
okay. There's this group of aliens, like humanoid and aliens kind of people,
Mhm.
and they go down to this planet to steal a ship off of this base.
Mhm.
And a kid is following this little creature into like a little bug, and he follows it onto the ship. And so they capture they steal the ship, but they don't realize the kid's on the ship.
Mhm.
And they have to get the kid back because he's like an important kid, and they have to get the kid back to his family. I think he's like a senator's son or something like that, or something of that nature. And people try to capture him. They find out that he's the senator's son, and so other people, or the main people who stole the ship, are just trying to get the kid back. But other people are like, well, let's hold him for ransom. And so they try to steal the kid, and he's got to run through all this. Is sounding familiar or no?
Well, I keep coming back to Guardians of the Galaxy, but it's not it. But it's funny how similar the premise of Guardians of the Galaxy is now that you mention it. That does sound vaguely
It's a
familiar.
B-rated science fiction movie of the 80s.
Of the 80s.
Yeah.
That does sound familiar. I just can't put my finger on it. Oh well. I'm not as much of a sci-fi buff as I thought.
Yeah.
I'll do some research. I'll try to find it because I'm sure. Like I said, I'm sure it could be narrowed down. But,
I know it's 80s. No. I'm trying to look for it here. Well, I remember Ice Pirates too.
Ice Pirates also jumped into my head, by the way.
Yeah.
But you can't really. They just come to Earth because they need water. They're not trying to help or hurt.
Yeah.
But they are humanoid aliens. It was some of the best robot fights in history. Remember, they have the gladiator robots.
Uh-huh.
That was the best part of the whole movie. R.I.P. Robert Urich, by the way, he was great in that movie. And from Dallas, Bing Crosby's daughter, whose name eludes me for the moment. As you can tell, I loved Ice Pirates when it came out. I saw it like 3 times in the theaters. Great little action sci-fi. But the other one you were talking about, I can't put my finger on it.
No, I can't either. I remember the little bug that he captures, because it looks real bad. I mean, it's like, claymation, and he captures it in this thing, but he follows it onto a ship. And the bad people or whatever that end up being good people, but making bad decisions. They steal the ship, but the kid's on it, so that's kind of how they get mixed up with the kid.
Well, while we're on the subject of accidentally taking children on board ships, what about the Lost Saucer? Do you remember the Lost Saucer? Sid and Marty Krofft. That's really cute. Ruth Buzzy and guy who played Gomer Pyle. You know who I'm talking about. They play 2 androids from the future who have come back to Earth to study it. 2 small children see their ship land and say, "Can we come on board and see your ship?" And they go, "Sure." And what happens is a bunch of police and fire show up, and the aliens panic. They think they're under attack, so they take off. And the kids say, "No, you have to bring us back to our time. They were just the police, like, trying to help us." Oh, okay. What happens is the ship gets messed up, so they can't go back to the exact specific time, but they keep trying. But every episode, they're in a different time. It's sort of like The Fugitive, where every week they're in a different dilemma, shall we say. Oh, we're in the 22nd century where everybody is stupid, and we're in the 24th century, everyone's smart, and it's that type of thing. And the whole premise is they eventually have to get the kids back to Earth, which again, it's sort of The Fugitive meets Lost in Space, now that I think of it.
It sounds like it.
But the aliens or androids, if you will, are in fact friendly.
Mm.
just bumbling. No reason you can't be both.
Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to find this movie because
I
it's
can tell you have this intense look, and I'm trying to keep the the conversation going while you dig.
yeah.
And,
Sorry about that. Sorry
no,
about that.
quite all right. No, quite all right. I'm as interested to finding it as
It's
you.
free on YouTube. I remember watching it on YouTube, getting about halfway through it and going, because I remember wanting to see it when I was a kid and then going, whatever. I don't want to see it now. Got halfway through it, and I'm like, I don't want to. I can't even remember any of the actors in it, but they did do the whole Spock, like kind of somebody with some weird ears or something like that. And then there's a female character and a male character who are the people who get who steal the ship. Oh well. I'll have to dig for it.
We will find it. I promise you.
All right. Well, we're at the top of the hour here, and
that hour flew by.
It did, as it always does. But Thrash, tell people about how they can find you online.
Well, you can go to right here, Thrash Pondo Ponds on YouTube is my content channel. Please join me tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm having another one of my surprise live chats. Surprise!
Yeah.
And in addition, I continue to bring the best of vintage sci-fi horror, coupled with an ongoing series I have of the worst dad jokes in captivity.
Those dad jokes are the best.
Yeah. Thank you. And how about you? What are you up to now with your channel? Anything new?
Not really a whole lot new. I'm still kind of trying to get back into the swing of things. So I was going to, on Monday, I was going to film like 5 things you didn't know about Cheers, but I just didn't get to it or whatever. And so I'm going to be working on that pretty soon, and just doing the podcast still and doing the Monday night live stream. So if everybody, come to the Monday night live stream, we'll be talking about kid-friendly aliens this Monday. I don't know when this will be out. This will be out, I'm hoping, by tomorrow or the next day, like Saturday or Sunday, at least enough time for people to listen to it and then go, oh, hey, come to the Monday night live stream. And as always, if you want to support the show, you are welcome to. The links are in the description below. We have the Patreon, and we have, if you want to do a one-time gift over Venmo, you're more than welcome to. And if you're listening to this on podcast, please rate this and share it on your favorite social media. And write a review. That helps a lot, to write a review and to rate it. The other thing you can do is go, if you're already on YouTube, you can share and subscribe and all that good stuff. And we're dedicated in bringing you the best of nostalgia, growing up Generation X. And subscribe to my friend's channel here as well, Thrash Pondo Ponds. Please, and his link will be in the description as well. And thanks for watching and listening to. If you're a podcast listener, listening to. If you're a YouTube watcher, you've watched this. So thank you everyone for that. And we will see you again on another episode of Retro Serial.
Ciao for now.